Hey everybody, it's time for another deck that, in my opinion, is not quite there. So, this will look familiar compared to a lot of the other things I've played on this channel because, at its core, this is really just black-green midrange. However, what I've attempted to do here is see if we can effectively splash Thief of Sanity. Thief of Sanity is one of my favorite cards in the new set. I loved Gonti, Lord of Luxury, and this is basically a Gonti trigger every time you hit someone. But it's a somewhat difficult card to play with, because it's small and fragile, and if they answer it, it doesn't do anything. So what does this deck do that regular black-green doesn't? The answer is that we have more individually powerful cards. Thief of Sanity can completely run away with a game in a way that something like District Guide just can't. That card's really not capable of doing the same. Similarly, we have Doom Whisperer on top. Sometimes you just play a Doom Whisperer and kill people, and people can't keep up with that. And one way I've found to maximize those two cards is putting in another must-answer threat in the form of Midnight Reaper. Many people have been playing them in their black-green decks anyway. I haven't tested that much with it, but it seems quite good. And if our opponent is forced to burn removal on the Reaper, so that we don't just get infinite value off of it, then hopefully a Thief or a Whisperer can survive, and one of those can run away with the game. So, obvious strengths are we get to play all the good black-green cards, and we have better individual cards. Weaknesses. This deck is more vulnerable to removal than a similar deck without the blue splash would be. If we had a District Guide, opponents' Moments of Craving or things like that are just very, very bad, whereas they actually have good targets in this deck. The other weakness is that we've weakened our mana significantly. The mana for Sultai isn't bad, and it's especially good because you get to be base black. We have both Watery Grave and Overgrown Tomb, so you've got the good black shocklands. But what this means is that adding blue, we have to cut way down on our colored sources, and we've got enough black and about enough blue, but we don't really have as much green. I've gone down to 2 Golgari Findbroker, and I've cut Jadelight Ranger entirely. This really does hurt our pure value plan, because those are creatures that are great to play into removal, but instead, we have things that just die and really don't generate much, especially if they have a Vraska's Contempt or something like that. Overall, though, the mana is still fine. It's not incredible, but it's good enough. So you will cast your spells, and your spells are better. Moving on to the sideboard, it's basically the same as what I've been doing beforehand. Anti-control cards, grindy cards, ways to answer Teferi, anti-mono red cards, and we also get to throw in a couple negates. I didn't want to play too much blue, because again, we don't have that many sources. We've got 12, which is fine, but not incredible. But negate is a really strong card, and especially could turn the tide in control matchups. When your opponent slams their Teferi, they're expecting it to maybe get Assassin's Trophied, or you'll untap and Vraska's Contempt. They are not expecting it to get negated out of the black-green deck. So this card is really good. So without further ado, I'm going to hop into one best-of-3 match, both because people wanted to see more games, and because the best-of-1 queue is kind of overloaded with mono-red decks, so I want to see if maybe we can get something a little more interesting to play against. Alright, getting into the match. It'll be interesting to see how this deck plays out, because half of the time you just don't draw a Thief of Sanity, and you just play black-green, and it's fine. This hand, though, looks really good. We've got curve up through 5, and our mana works, so. Opponent going to 6. The bad part about this hand is we don't really have any interaction, although that seems like that is going to be perfectly fine. If opponent is playing a control deck, then this hand is honestly just excellent. I'm going to play the Drowned Catacomb here, and I'm going to look to Branchwalker. Kind of expected them to counter it, but I'm fine that they didn't. Huh. Since opponent showed red, do I want that? I don't think I can afford to keep it. I think I need to dig for more lands. But because they showed red instead of white, I think it's likely that my creatures are going to die. And so I want to have... having this as card advantage would be kind of excellent. But as is, we've already got plenty of good anti-control cards. Draw's very good for what's happening here. Okay. Well, alright then. Can't say I expected that. So, Again, because they are red, they probably have red removal, like Shock and Lightning Strike. And so I both want to bait out those spells before playing my Thieves of Sanity, but also if my opponent wants to shock my creature, I would prefer they kill the one that generates value. Sneaking a Thief of Sanity under counterspells doesn't really matter very much, because if they counter it or if they shock it, it's basically the same. That's pretty unfortunate, but luckily we've still got a bunch of good 3-drops we want to play, so... Well, it probably has something here, I would imagine. Yep, Lightning Strike, sure. Cool, collect our 2-for-1. And we hit a land, awesome. I don't even know if that's what we're going to play this turn. Let's see what they do. I should say, I don't know if we're going to play the Golgari Queen, because she doesn't really, like, do anything yet. We don't have any permanents we want to sacrifice. They hesitated a long time, which makes me think they have another removal spell of that style. So if we play a Thief of Sanity, it's probably just going to get shocked or lightning striked. So I am going to throw out the Vraska, even if she doesn't do anything yet. If she eats a Syncopate or whatever, that's fine. Not getting any value off this kind of sucks, but what can you do? We don't want to sacrifice any of these permanents. Lightning strikes. Targeting Vraska. Okay. If she eats another lightning strike, I'm fine with the value she generated. Eating 2 removal spells is great. Makes it really likely that we'll be able to stick one of these. Meanwhile, Merfolk Branchwalker is applying very good pressure. It's kind of funny. One of the things that I had to do is, of course, you have to make cuts for these cards. And one of the cuts was... Jade Light Ranger, as I mentioned, but I also just trimmed up on the removal a bit. I'm not playing Plague Crafters in the main, and I'm down to 1 Vraska's Contempt, which in a lot of matchups could really punish you, but in this matchup is just excellent. Playing the Doom Whisperer there, because, again, opponent's blue-red, if we can sneak this under a counter, it's going to be really hard for them to kill it. Okay, draw some cards, whatever. We don't want to surveil too aggressively, because they could burn us out or play a Crackling Drake and kill us in 1 hit or something like that, but I will be surveilling some amount to try to set up a good draw. Well, that's, they had 1 card that could trade for the Doom Whisperer, that's something. I think I'm going to keep this like this so I can stick Vraska this next turn. She should be able to run away with the game pretty easily. Combat, go ahead. It's pretty futile to pay 2 life to dig for an untapped land that doesn't hurt us, because paying 2 life for Watery Grave is the same. But yeah, I think we're in quite a good spot. They could, like, yeah. They couldn't really do anything once we stuck the Vraska. Alright, blue-red control. Our sideboard is great. Put in all these sweet cards. Let's take out some bad cards. I think I'm... No, I brought in the Vivian Reeds. We need some amount of removal for, like, Crackling Drakes, but we've got enough. Let's see, how many cards are we at? We need 4 more cuts. So, I think I'm going to cut the Chupacabras. They generate value when killing a Drake, but they're very bad if opponent doesn't have a Drake. I think we actually trim a Thief of Sanity. Opponent's just very good at killing it with all their red removal spells, so... And then, let's trim 1 Vraska. Planeswalkers are good in this matchup, but that Planeswalker doesn't do anything if we're not sticking creatures. And if we're sticking a bunch of creatures, we are in a pretty good spot anyway. Yeah, this hand is just fantastic. Duress into guaranteed 2-for-1s, plus a removal spell for anything they might have going on is like... I guess I would make this another Woodland Cemetery, if I could completely change the hand in any way. Oh. Yeah. I will be glad to hold that up later. Okay, let's get the Lava Coil. That is good against our Midnight Reaper, and Disdainful Stroke doesn't hit anything in our hand. So... Okay, opponent hit a tap land, that's fine. Second Assassin's Trophy, not an absolutely perfect draw, but they can't all be absolutely perfect, I guess, so. I think if we can stick this over, or, oh, hey, we found that other Woodland Cemetery I was talking about. If we can stick this Midnight Reaper, they do have one unknown, and then untap and negate, I think we'll just be set. I do think I need to play this now, because we can't really afford to wait until 5. Okay, an opponent just packs it in. Little disappointing, would have liked to show the deck more, but we played good cards that opponent couldn't beat and pulled ahead. So yeah, I'm not sure how exactly you could make this deck better. It would be really good if we could find another must-kill card to pressure the opponent's removal. Like, if we could somehow get a Glint Sleeve Siphoner type of card, that would be fantastic. But I don't know what we could be playing for now. So, if you liked this video and you want to see more things like this, or full deck techs, we put a bunch of those up every week, and I would love it if you could subscribe to the channel. That'll help you get notifications when stuff goes up, and it helps other people see the content. That's all for today, thank you, and bye.